Gentlemen, welcome back to another legal breaking reporting video analysis update. Today is August 1st, 2025. Our first reporting this morning is by the New York Times, reporting that Kamala Harris, former vice presidential candidate, former vice president and former Democratic presidential 2024 candidate, will not seek to run for 2026 California governor to replace current second term Democratic governor Gavin Newsom. I'm not gonna call him Governor Gavin Newsom, ladies and gentlemen, like Trump has called him, because that's just plain old disrespectful and just plainly outright disrespectful. Our first reporting today is by the New York Times. Our second reporting, ladies and gentlemen, is by The Hill, stating that the Federal Reserve Chair has, despite Donald Trump's demands, held steady on interest rates. Let's get into the first reporting. Like I said, is by the New York Times. These are both read by an automated voice to help out with the videos. Excuse me, video.
Harris will not run for California governor. This article is by Laurel Rosenhall, Sean Hubler, and Reed J. Epstein, and read by an automated voice. Former Vice President Kamala Harris will not run for governor of California next year, she announced on Wednesday, foregoing another campaign after her defeat in last year's presidential election and ending months of speculation about whether she would enter the race. For now, my leadership and public service will not be in elected office, Ms. Harris said in a statement. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly, and sharing more details in the months ahead about my own plans. Ms. Harris, a former U.S. Senator and Attorney General of California, had been exploring a run for the state's top office since she returned home to Los Angeles in January. But she had done little to express enthusiasm for the job. She skipped large political events in the state and never reached out to the leaders of major labor unions, which deliver valuable endorsements. Ms. Harris had told friends and donors in recent months that she was weighing her options for the future: a run for governor next year, another run for president in 2028, or a career outside of elective office. Foregoing the governor's race means that Ms. Harris could potentially run for president in 2028, which would be her third such attempt after withdrawing from the 2020 contest and later losing to President Trump last year. If Ms. Harris does run in 2028, she would face a competitive Democratic field, starting with a potential rival whom she has known well for decades, the state's current governor, Gavin Newsom. He has elevated his national profile this year, including by launching a podcast and visiting South Carolina, a key primary state. Mr. Newsom is finishing his second term and by law cannot run for a third, which opened the door for Ms. Harris and other possible candidates to run to succeed him. Ms. Harris has spent the months since November largely out of the public eye, delivering a paid speech in Australia and appearing at weddings of some of her famous friends. She was in England last week for the wedding of the Apple heiress Eve Jobs, whose mother, Laureen Powell Jobs, is a close friend. In June, she attended the wedding of Hillary Clinton's top aide and the son of a Democratic mega-donor. In May, she was spotted at the Met Gala in New York. Her deliberations came during a summer of political turmoil in California, in which federal immigration raids and President Trump's deployment of military troops disrupted life for many residents and put the state's leading Democrats on the defensive. Ms. Harris weighed in selectively with a handful of statements on social media, but mostly stayed silent about the tumult unfolding in her state. During that time, Ms. Harris was also largely absent from the broader Democratic discussions about the party's future. While the party's ambitious governors, members of Congress, and various Biden administration officials have appeared on podcasts, toured the country, and held town hall meetings in Republican districts, Ms. Harris has offered no explanation for why she lost the 2024 race, and she has not presented any beginnings of a roadmap for how Democrats might claw back power. And while Ms. Harris won the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination by acclamation after President Joseph R. Biden Jr. ended his re-election bid a year ago, there is no indication that other Democrats would defer to her a second time. Government Tim Walz of Minnesota, whom Ms. Harris chose as her running mate, has spent part of this year on his own personal apology tour, offering public and private explanations for why their ticket lost to Mr. Trump and how he and other Democrats can win back voters' trust and affection. Mr. Newsom has dissected the Democrats' woes on his podcast, This is Gavin Newsom, going as far as inviting conservative guests like Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon to appear and asking them why the Democratic Party suffered losses last year. Though polling showed that Ms. Harris would have been the front-runner in the governor's race, she would have faced difficult questions about how much she knew about President Biden's decline and whether she participated in shielding his diminished health from the public. Some Democrats in California, including activists at the party's state convention 2 months ago, have said they did not want her to run for governor because they feared it would send a message to the rest of the nation that Democrats had not moved on from last year's losses. Others felt that the office of governor was beneath Ms. Harris after she served as vice president. Ms. Harris's decision has opened the 2026 governor's race to a field that is narrow in some respects and wide in others. The state's electorate is overwhelmingly Democratic, and no Republican has won statewide office since 2006, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was re-elected governor and another Republican was elected as insurance commissioner. Ms. Harris's absence frees up major liberal donors and creates room for a relatively large field of well-known or deep-pocketed Democrats. Lesser-known candidates were waiting for her to make a decision so they could begin campaigning in earnest across a vast state with at least a half-dozen major media markets in which the price tag for a successful effort can rival that of some national campaigns. Candidates already in the race who are likely to benefit from her decision include Antonio Villaraigosa, a former Los Angeles mayor who ran unsuccessfully for governor in 2018 against Mr. Newsom, and Xavier Becerra, a California attorney general and secretary of Health and Human Services in the Biden administration. Other contenders include Katie Porter, a former member of Congress from Orange County who lost the Democratic primary for Senate to Adam Schiff last year, and Eleni Kounalakis, the state's lieutenant governor. In California, Ms. Harris's decision was widely viewed as unsurprising, and a sign that her heart was more with a national office than a statewide one. Representative Sidney Kamlager-Dove, a California Democrat who has been friends with Ms. Harris for many years, said the former vice president believed that, quote, California would be in good hands, and that she would be more effective at the national level. Mayor Karen Bass, a former congresswoman who was on Mr. Biden's short list for the vice presidency along with Ms. Harris, said, I have the utmost respect for her making a decision like that and will be very interested to see how she continues in public service. Mr. Villaraigosa said he understood Ms. Harris's choice, even though, I lost a bet, I thought she was coming in. Look, I've known her a long time and have respect for her and her decades of leadership and public service, Mr. Villaraigosa said. I don't know why she decided not to run, but I think it has something to do with her continued commitment to serving at a national level. I think she'll continue to be a powerful voice for justice and opportunity.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of that reporting. Let's get on to the reporting by the Hill. This reporting again is regarding the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and about the interest rates that they have, or that he has decided to keep steady despite Donald Trump's demands.
Federal Reserve holds rates steady but sees first double dissent in 30 years, by Tobias Burns. The Federal Reserve kept short-term interest rates at a level of 4.25 to 4.50% on Wednesday, but the vote saw the first double dissent from Federal Reserve Board officials in more than 30 years. 11 members of the Federal Open Market Committee (FOMC) agreed to keep rates where they are, but Fed Vice Chair of Supervision Michelle Bowman and Governor Christopher Waller, whom are both in the running for President Trump's nomination to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell, voted to lower them following an immense pressure campaign from the president. It was the first time two members of the Federal Reserve Board, which usually votes unanimously, dissented in more than 30 years. All members of the Federal Reserve Board are part of the Federal Open Market Committee, which also includes a rotation of regional Reserve Bank officials. The continued interest rate pause was in line with expectations from financial markets, keeping rates where they have been since January. Interest rate futures contracts put the odds of a pause at 96.9% on Wednesday prior to the decision. The hold steady comes as prices have started to tick back upwards, likely a result of tariffs imposed as part of President Trump's trade war. The Consumer Price Index (CPI) slid up in June to a 2.7% annual increase from 2.4% in May. The Personal Consumption Expenditures (PCE) Price Index inched up to a 2.3% annual increase in May from 2.2% in April. Economists have attributed the moves to businesses passing along cost increases coming from tariffs. Cost increases have shown up in electronics, home furnishings, and apparel, all items that are sensitive to import taxes. Tariffs notwithstanding, underlying inflation is still showing signs of life. That is arguably more important to the Fed, though Powell said in Portugal earlier this month that the central bank would have started cutting rates if it were not for Trump's import taxes. Along with a robust June jobs report, which showed the economy adding a seasonally adjusted 147,000 jobs and the unemployment rate ticking down to 4.1%, upward price pressures are continuing independent of White House trade moves. Inflation, while much more subdued than immediately following the pandemic, has ranged between 2.3 and 3.0% since last June, and remains well above the Federal Reserve's 2.0% target level. Jerry Templeman, a former New York Federal Reserve analyst and a vice president at Mutual of America Capital Management, wrote in a commentary. Monthly job growth has been much more robust than it was last summer, which had prompted the Federal Reserve to ease policy 3 times in 2024, he added. Both Bowman and Waller made the case for cuts prior to this week's meeting. Waller favored a cut on the basis of tariffs, slower growth, and a job market that he described as close to stall speed. While the labor market looks fine on the surface once we account for expected data revisions, private sector payroll growth is near stall speed, and other data suggest that the downside risks to the labor market have increased, he said earlier this month. The continued pause comes amid immense pressure on the central bank from Trump to lower interest rates, even as his tariffs contribute to increasing inflation. Trump appeared to ambush Powell over a cost overrun last week on live television during a rare joint appearance at a Fed facility renovation site by the two men. Trump told Powell on Thursday that the renovation cost overrun, which had been criticized by White House officials, was more than previously reported, producing a document to support the claim. Powell scanned the document and dismissed it as including estimates for an already completed project. The continued pause followed a robust report for second quarter economic growth from the Commerce Department on Wednesday. It showed gross domestic product (GDP) increasing by 3% after the economy contracted by 0.5% in the first quarter. The positive jump was mostly due to a decrease in imports, reflecting irregularities in trade flows prompted by Trump's trade war. Economists were less than reassured by the headline number, even calling it a mirage. This apparent strength is an economic mirage reflecting a sharp pullback in imports after the tariff-driven front-loading of demand in the first quarter, EY Parthenon economist Gregory Dacko wrote in an analysis. Stripping out the noise, the United States economy expanded at a muted 1.2% average pace in the first half of the year, revealing soft underlying private sector demand.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this legal breaking reporting video analysis update for the morning of August 1st, 2025. If you did enjoy this legal breaking reporting video analysis update, please firstly like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Secondly, if you would like to stay up to date, please follow me on my social medias. That'll be linked down below in the video description. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok and Instagram. There you guys will be updated when I upload brand new legal breaking reporting video analysis updates to the channel. You guys can also do so by clicking the bell icon and hitting the all notifications options. There's no paywall. It's completely free of charge. It does not cost anything to hit the bell icon as well as the all notifications option. It's located directly beneath the screen here on the right hand side of the subscribe button. Thirdly, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 230 plus subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm saying 230 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 230 plus subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve. Right after we reach and achieve the goal of 230 subscribers. Fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe. And always look for the points of light in today's unfortunate induced darkness that is unfortunately, sadly, and illegally caused by the Trump regime. And always look for the points of light. And until my next legal breaking reporting video analysis update, I will talk to you guys soon.